Welcome back to 5am Chats, and this week is Maternal Mental Health Awareness Week. So who better to join me than Sally from PANDAS Foundation? Now, we talked all about everything PANDAS has to offer and also Sally's own experience in suffering with postnatal depression. So grab yourself a cup of tea and let's get into it. Welcome back to 5am Chats, and this week is Maternal Mental Health Awareness Week. So my lovely guest is Sally from PANDAS Foundation. You may recognise Sally and know that we have worked together on a few occasions now, as I really truly believe that PANDAS do the most incredible work for maternal mental health. So it is an absolute honour to speak to Sally today. How are you, Sally?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for letting me be on the podcast. It's a real pleasure, and thank you so much for everything you've done for PANDAS, Laura, because honestly, it's been amazing, and you've raised so much money for us, and you've supported us in so many ways, and we're so grateful. So yeah, it's a real honour to be on your podcast.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. Anything I can do to help. I just think the work that you're doing is so important for so many families that I just want to try and raise as much awareness and as much money for you as possible. And I think today, even just us talking about mental health is going to help a lot of people hugely. So yes, thank you very much. Right, so I asked our community some questions around maternal mental health. I asked them to send in a few things that they would like to be answered. So let's crack on. The first one is from somebody who is 6 months postpartum and not feeling themselves. They want to know exactly what PANDAS can offer them. What can PANDAS do to help?
Okay, well, firstly, to say that it doesn't really matter how old your child is from PANDAS's point of view. We support parents and carers and their networks from right from conception through to birth and way beyond. And in terms of what we can do to support, we're an early intervention service. So we see people who might just think, oh, I've had a really bad day today, or a bad week, or a bad month, or perhaps they just feel quite lonely or isolated, or maybe they think something's not quite right. I'm not quite sure what it is. I'm not sure if I need a diagnosis for something or if I'm just, having a rough time. And we've got many different free support services that we offer. We've got a WhatsApp update. We've got a free helpline. We've got an email support service, and we've also got online and offline peer-to-peer support groups. So we've got them face-to-face up and down the country in various towns and cities, trying to build up all the time. And we've also got Facebook group where people offer peer-to-peer support. And we've got a Thursday, which is run by our brilliant facilitators here at PANDAS. So if you can't get out the house, you can join on the Thursday night call and share your experiences, offer support to others. So that's another really good way to get support. But yeah, the people at the other end of the support services are our amazing PANDAS trained volunteers. There's over 130 of them now, and they are all people that have probably experienced what you're going through, or in some form have experienced, a perinatal mental health issue, have been in some really dark places and have recovered the other side, and know what it feels like. And they're trained up and they're there to offer support and advice in a really non-judgmental space. And sometimes it's just space just to be heard and understood. And that can go such a long way. I don't think people realize how much that can help. And I think people really appreciate talking to a stranger a lot of the time, because although friends and family can be so helpful, sometimes just talking to somebody that gets it, but with no baggage or preconceptions or judgments or anything like that, can be so beneficial. Even if it's like, for me, I had really awful sleep deprivation, which I know you do, Laura. And yes, that is... sometimes you think, well, I just need sleep. But actually having the space to be heard and understood can help and can be so cathartic and can help no end. So yeah, I really recommend it. So the sort of helpline and the WhatsApp is for that sort of in the moment support. The email support is really if you kind of want that continuity, because what I think is that you get one volunteer that you're assigned to, and it's almost like a pen pal relationship. You can kind of go back and forth with that one person, and you don't have to explain yourself every time because they know your backstory. And that's a really beautiful thing as well. So yeah, different ways we can support.
Yeah, I think it's so important having people who've actually been through it as well themselves, so they know the feelings and how people perhaps are kind of dealing with different situations. And sometimes speaking to friends and family, they don't really get it because they've not been there themselves. So
yeah,
I think that's such a good point that you have those people there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes with friends and family, they kind of know exactly how to push your buttons, and sometimes there's so much baggage that comes with that, that it's really hard. So yeah, getting that person that's really free from that can be really amazing.
Yeah, and talking really does help. I found that when I was not feeling so good, that bottling it up just makes it worse, really. Just talking about it really does help, and just get it out and kind of work through it that way. So yes, Pandas are offering some very, very important services. And if you are feeling at all like you want to just chat or need some help, then please do reach out to them. So I think that kind of leads on from what Pandas can offer to a more personal question for you, Sally. Did you suffer with postnatal depression yourself? So I know a lot of the volunteers that work for Pandas obviously have been through maternal mental health illness. Did you personally suffer as well?
I did, yes. And in fact, all of the management team have, to some extent. So there's 7 of us that are on the management team, and we've all experienced some form of perinatal mental health issue. So for me, I have 2 children. They're now 8 and 9. So they were born very close together. So we had our daughter, and then she was only 2.5 months old, and we realised that I was pregnant again.
Oh, wow.
So that was a bit of a shock. And she came, so they were born a year apart, so there's only a year and 12 days between them. And my youngest daughter just did not sleep. It was just horrendous. She had really bad, well, we think it was silent reflux. We never really got to the bottom of it, but she would just cry and cry, and it would always manifest at night. So like we'd have to just rock her. She would not be laid flat on her back. She had to be like upright sleep. So we'd take it in turns just jiggling her upright. She wouldn't sleep for like more than an hour. My husband used to just put her in a sling and like pound the streets for like 2-3 hours at a time. So the sleep deprivation was just hideous. And it seemed to happen, like, you know how people talk about how babies get colic and then they kind of grow out of it at about 3 months old. But for her, that's when it all started. So from about 3 months old, for some reason, she really began just being in such pain and discomfort constantly. And that was a really triggering time, because you'd go to all these baby groups, and I guess that's what I was meaning when I was talking about how having someone that gets it can be so important, because actually having people that don't get it on the other side of the coin can be so damaging. So when you go to baby groups and you just hear about people's babies are sleeping, or they wake up and they have a sleepy feed and then they go back to sleep. Oh, it was just hideous, because it felt like the pits of despair, to be honest. And also we had our other daughter who was just 1. So obviously she was really needing us too. So I was kind of racked with guilt that I wasn't giving her enough time, completely sleep deprived. But my postnatal depression didn't really manifest in a way that I thought postnatal depression could. So I became like a really angry person, like a really resentful person. And I ended up feeling like I was going mad. Like I would do things like scream into pillows. I began what I think now looking back was self-harming. So I'd kind of like run my nails down my arms in anger and frustration. I found myself punching walls like at 4 a.m. I just didn't
Wow.
recognize myself at all. And it wasn't till my youngest was about 8 months old that I finally went to the doctor, very much supported by my lovely husband. And the doctor diagnosed me with postnatal depression. He said it's late onset and it's caused by sleep deprivation, but you've got postnatal depression. And actually getting that diagnosis for me was really freeing, because it made me think, oh, I'm ill. And if in my head I thought, okay, well, if I'm ill and I've got a condition, that means I can get better, and this means this isn't me, because I just felt like I was just turning into an awful person that couldn't cope. So getting that diagnosis for me was amazing, and also realizing that postnatal depression can manifest in all these other ways that aren't feeling sad or not feeling a bond with your baby. Actually, it can be massive feelings of resentment, anger, rage, all those things. Was really eye-opening to me, and that's why I now do this job, because now we know there's loads of people going through what I did, but nobody understands that that's a symptom. And so, yeah, it's made it my mission to educate and let people know that they're not a bad person, they're not an awful person. Actually, they're poorly, and that they can get better. So, yeah, there is hope. And if you're feeling like I did, I promise it will get better. And please do reach out for support. It's there and it will end.
Yeah, you're bringing back so many memories for me, because my experience was quite similar to yours. Well, it did come on from the start, really, because we had a really awful traumatic birth experience with my first daughter, and from day one she just cried non-stop. People say, oh, they're such a happy, calm, lovely baby. No, she was not happy at all. She did not want to be here. She was screaming and screaming and screaming non-stop, day and night, for what felt like months. She was just, it was just so hard hearing her just in so much discomfort. She had the colic, the reflux. We would have to have her upright. There was one night I remember particularly bad when we didn't get any sleep at all until 6 a.m.
Hideous.
And it was just pacing back and forth in the room, and it was just awful. And when you've been through such a difficult situation as well, I had a 37-hour labor. I hadn't slept for 3 days, and
Laura,
it was just then
go
not
into
get any
that.
sleep after that.
Yeah.
Was just so hard, and just mentally just absolutely exhausting. I kept remember thinking to myself, oh, it'll be okay, I'll get some sleep when we go back to normal. But then that is normal now. There is no going back to normal, because you have a baby and they need you, and you have to look after them. They're not going anywhere. So for us it was from day one. And like you say, you hit that 3 months and think, oh, everyone says by 3 months it will get better, and it just didn't.
No.
She was just miserable, and I just felt like such a bad mum, because I thought, why have I got such an unhappy baby? She's just not happy. What am I doing wrong? I'm trying really hard. But I then also didn't feel very happy myself.
No.
And then I thought, what's wrong with me? I'm not loving this, and I'm supposed to be this, but this is really, really hard.
Yeah.
And then of course it does also affect your relationship, because neither of us were getting any sleep. So we were snapping at each other. We were getting really angry with each other for tiny little things. And I think it is that anger that you don't expect, do you? Because I mean, I always thought I was quite a chilled person. I'd always been told, you're so laid back, you're so easygoing.
Yeah.
And then this anger just came out of nowhere. And I just, even just like months later, the frustration of her not sleeping and just always crying and being so unhappy. And then we had feeding issues as well. And it's just, it all mounts up, doesn't it? And I think
totally,
it just comes out in different ways.
It does. And I remember every night time, and it's like the bedtime is the thing that you're meant to look forward to because it means you get some rest, but actually you spend the whole day exhausted, and then you're just dreading the night because you know probably it's going to be awful. So it's I mean, I remember my husband, like, it would hit midnight and then he'd be up, we'd both be up for hours, and he'd get that ping to say he'd done 10,000 steps.
Oh my God.
For the day, because it was midnight, and it's like,
oh my God.
brilliant, I'm into bed yet. It was just, and we similar, we had the feeding issues as well. We saw like every dietitian going. We were trying like no fruit ever before bed. We were trying no dairy, we were trying no lactose, we tried those disgusting milk, sink of rubber. Like, we were just trying everything, and nothing would make a difference. It was just awful, and I still don't know what it was, because now she's fine and she has every single food, you know, she's not allergic to anything, she's not intolerant to everything, so who knows what caused it. And then of course you get the whole, well, on paper she's thriving, and you're like, well, I'm not thriving. I am. And I can't believe the number of times we took her to the out of hours clinic or to the GP to talk about it, because it's like, she's been up crying in pain for hours, and you get there, and because we want to make her sleep, or she wasn't trying to be laid flat, she looked happy as anything. And then they'd say, well, she's fine. Not once did anyone say, but how are you? Because this must be hideous, you know? So that's another reason why I now work for PANDAS, because why aren't people asking that, especially when you're back and forth to that GP saying she never sleeps, we don't ever sleep? That should be the alarm bell to say, that must be really tough for you mentally. Are you okay? But no one ever did. So it reaches, often it reaches that crisis point. And that, I think that also fed into the resentment and the anger, because of course I'm going to be resentful and angry when I've been back and forth to these healthcare professionals and they can't diagnose, and they don't seem to care about me as the mother. Like, you know, that's going to make you resentful. And on top of that, no one else seems to get it or understand it. And I just felt like I was falling apart. So looking back, it's easy to see why I got ill. But yeah, so much more education, awareness, and just care is needed for people in our position, because it's just so debilitating, isn't it? And just more awareness is needed for it, really, because of course you're going to be not being able to function properly at that point when you're on like 1 hour sleep a night. It's just hideous. I remember hallucinating sounds and looking at the pavement and seeing it move and wobble because I was so tired.
Delirious.
I was literally delirious. Like, of course I'm not going to function well at that point.
I remember people speaking to me and it was like I couldn't really hear them properly. I was just like, basic questions, like my mum would be like, should I put some load of washing in for you? I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
What? Like,
don't even know what you're talking about.
I don't know. Like,
I remember going to the shop and I had the babies with me, and I remember the woman at the till going, "Oh, how are you? My granddaughter's just had a baby." She said, "Oh, she's only 3 months old. She sleeps right through every night. 12 hours she sleeps every night." And I was just like, I could punch you in the face right now. You have no idea how triggering that is for me to say that to me, and how just awful on every level that makes me feel. I remember just walking home crying, just thinking, why me? Why me then? Why have I got these 2 babies? And also they just tag team each other, because even on the rare occasion the youngest did sleep, the other one would be up. So it was just a really bleak time. Such a bleak time. But yeah, like, to give people hope, it's so good now. They both sleep every night right through, and it does end. But at the time, you just feel like it's never gonna end. But it does.
It really does. It feels like you're stuck in that cycle forever, and it's just no sleep, just awful. But I don't know when something happens, something changes. You just gradually get better, and it does improve. And like, you know, my it's my youngest daughter's birthday today, actually, but my eldest was 7 last Wednesday. My youngest is 4 today, and I honestly love the ages that they are now, and I just want to stop time. I find, in that period at the beginning, I wanted to speed everything up, and I just kept thinking, oh, hurry up and get older, hurry up and just sleep and do this and do that. But now I just want to stop. I want it to stay like this because it's so nice. And it's just such a lovely period that they're at, the ages they are now. And
it does make the good times so much better, doesn't it? Like I will never, ever take for granted a night's sleep again now. Like I think every morning, 7 hours sleep, that was amazing. And when they play together, or when they'll just sit in a room together and I don't have to be right over them making sure they're not going to do something awful, I just really appreciate it. So it really does, those dark times, they make the good times now just so magnetized. So there's such a silver lining to all of this, and it does happen in the end. It's just tough when you're in it.
It really is. And I think now, people have so much more awareness, I guess, partly due to the work that PANDAS have done and all the other advocates for maternal mental health. But back when I had my first daughter in 2017, I felt like Instagram was a very glossy place still. If people were having babies, it was just those beautiful images of these sleeping babies, and there wasn't quite as much reality on Instagram as there is now. And I think for me, part of my realization that I actually did have postnatal depression, and my kind of therapy and getting out of it, was seeing all of the realness that people are sharing on social media and the awareness around maternal mental health, because it made me feel like, okay, I'm not the only one going through this. I'm not alone in how I've been feeling. I'm normal, whereas I thought I was not normal. And I never got a formal diagnosis. It was just through realizing, actually, I think I did have it, because I've seen all of this content that other people are putting out, and it literally ticks every box of how I was feeling myself. So I think the more we can talk about it, and the more we can raise awareness of it being so common, and that you're not the only one going through anything like this, then hopefully we can help a lot more people.
Totally. And social media can get a bad rep, can't it? But for giving those glossy images and those are, the perfect mother and things. But actually, I think that if you're in the right places on there, which I know we are, it can be a place of real comfort, and you can find your tribe, and you can see that you are normal. And there's loads of people doing that now, thank goodness, because oh my gosh, it's needed. You need to curate your feed so it's full of that and not the perfect images, for sure.
Yes, exactly. Right, so our next question is, what is the likelihood of experiencing postpartum psychosis with a second baby? Any way to prevent it, and what is a care plan?
Okay.
So this is quite niche, isn't it? Postpartum psychosis.
It is quite niche. So postpartum psychosis is something that can happen to a small percentage of mothers. And it sounds like the person that asked that question possibly has experienced it before with their first baby. I think that's what I took that to mean.
I'm assuming so, yeah.
So yes, in a way, the thing is, if you have experienced any sort of mental health issue before, unfortunately, it does increase the chances of you experiencing something similar again, but that is by no means a given at all. So she could very well have a baby and it be absolutely fine, and she may not experience it again. And the reason why she may not experience it again is because she and the healthcare professionals surrounding her will be absolutely on this now, because they know it's a risk. And hopefully she, and definitely the healthcare professionals, will know exactly what to look out for. And like any mental health issue, the sooner it's checked out for, and the sooner people act on that, the more chance you've got of not experiencing it, because there are measures that can be put in place to help you. So postpartum psychosis is actually something that there's a whole charity that is completely dedicated to psychosis, and they're called Action on Postpartum Psychosis, and they are amazing. And they actually are doing lots this week because it's Maternal Mental Health Awareness Week. I know that they've got a brilliant ambassador, Laura Dockrell, who's doing a creative workshop course this week for people that have experienced psychosis. It's free, and there's loads of resources there, so absolutely look up Action on Postpartum Psychosis. But also know that you've been through this before, you know what to look out for, and you will be all over it like a rash. So the support will be there, and it will be put in place. The things to look out for psychosis are, after you've had a baby, if you're experiencing things like confusion, really racing thoughts, you're sort of like really unusually elated, or really unusually frightened or tearful, or you're kind of experiencing really bad insomnia, or like don't feel like you have a need to sleep, or you're having sort of like unusual thoughts or beliefs that other people are finding concerning, or you're kind of seeing, hearing, or sensing things that others can't, then absolutely get in touch with your healthcare provider. It's a matter of urgency, and they can provide you with support. But I think the great thing is, because she's been through it before, everyone will be aware of it, and there will be so many preventative measures that will support her and make sure she's okay. So that would be my answer to that.
I think as well, if there's anything she could do to put in some measures to prepare herself a bit better, maybe the second time. I know I didn't suffer from psychosis, but for me, I was very aware that I didn't want to feel that way again with my second. So I went on a hypnobirthing course. I made sure that I was very clear on what I wanted for my birth plan, and put in measures in place, spoke to my husband about how we were going to tag team the sleep, and looking after my first daughter as well, and just making everyone around me aware, if you see me behaving a certain way, or, here's the things that would really help me. That was a really good thing. But for me, I was absolutely fine the second time. So
good.
Like you say, it doesn't necessarily mean if you do suffer the first time that you will be the same second time.
Not at all.
I had a completely different experience the second time around. So
good.
There is hope that it will be okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely not a given that you will go through it again. The likelihood is it might be completely different, but yeah, the support should be there this time to really be looking out for it. So that's a real positive, I think.
Yes, definitely. Right, so our last question is how to toughen up and fight bad work situations, e.g. bullying, when defences are low because of tiredness.
Yeah, that's such a sad question. I think the first thing to say is, do you need to toughen up? Like, I feel like the question insinuates like a real, what's the word? I feel like it insinuates that it's almost they are putting blame on themselves because they are tired or maybe oversensitive. But actually, this is not your fault. It doesn't matter if you've just had a baby or whether you're the most robust person in the world. You should not be being spoken to like that. And you deserve the support to make sure you're not. So bullying at work is never acceptable. And I don't think it's a case of, oh, you're being aggressive. First piece of advice is just have the confidence to know that this is unacceptable, and it's not your fault. It doesn't matter what state you're in, whether you're tired or not, you shouldn't be being bullied at work. And I think to have the confidence to hopefully talk to somebody like their manager about this, and if they suspect that they are being put in this position because they've had a baby, maybe they feel like, I don't know, that sometimes people get a bad rep at work because they have to go on time, things like that. There's definitely help and support out there. There's a charity called Pregnant and Screwed, who have a free helpline that helps. Yeah, that they help if you feel like you're being discriminated at work because you've had a baby. There's a helpline where they can offer you support and advice. and I would really recommend using that if you feel that it might be because you've had a baby. And also your workplace, are they offering you the support and advice that you just at PANDAS, we've got like a free HR toolkit available for all businesses. So this free toolkit helps businesses work out if their HR policies are up to scratch for maternity, whether they're back to work strategies, and keeping in touch with mums and dads who are becoming parents are up to scratch, and that's free. So if they're not offering the support and advice, maybe they could email them and say, oh look, this is a free resource for you that will help you look after your employees who are having a family, because that's really important. It was designed with the amazing Dr. Crystal Wilkinson, who is an expert in this field. So there's that as well. But and also, if it's affecting you emotionally, which of course it will be, please do use the PANDAS support services, because we can just be there to talk to you, help you validate your feelings, because that must be a really tough time. It's tough enough going back to work anyway, but if you're being bullied, then that is, it's not fair and it needs to stop.
It's not advice. Okay. And definitely don't be too hard on yourself, because you haven't done anything wrong, and it's quite acceptable to be tired. Don't feel like you have to toughen up at all. It's I feel it's such a horrible situation to go through. So
it is.
Please do reach out to PANDAS or speak to somebody at your workplace to hopefully improve it.
Yes.
Okay, well, that is the last of our questions. Thank you so much, Sally, for coming on and answering them with me today.
Pleasure. And I'm sure we'll put like signposting information in the information, won't we? But it was an absolute pleasure. Yeah. Thank you so much, Laura. And thank you again for all your work supporting our charity. You are amazing.
Thank you. I know my legs have just about recovered from the marathon.
No, and bless you. I
know.
Will, how long did it take you to recover after that?
I mean, I still have a pretty disgusting black toenail, but in general, I could walk upstairs after about 3 days, so it was all right.
I did a half, and that was enough for me. I got one of those as well. A nice black toenail from the half. So a marathon. Oh, you're amazing. Yeah. I
don't know if I'll do another one, but we'll definitely have some more products or something else a bit less exhausting.
You've done a marathon. You don't do it ever again. You have ticked that box. In fact, that could be your next product. Just a marathon on a t-shirt. You've got the t-shirt. Done.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you, Sally. I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks so much, Laura. Take care.
I hope you found that useful, and if you are suffering yourself, or you know a family member who could benefit from talking to PANDAS, then please do reach out to them. Their team are so helpful and friendly and offer some brilliant advice. I will leave all of their information in the box below, and see you next week.